Alright, cool. After watching Attack on Titan, Levi Ackerman might be one of the most painful and tragic characters I have ever seen in fiction. Now, a lot of the characters in Attack on Titan have gone through a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, but nothing like Levi Ackerman, I can't lie. His whole character is about him being humanity's strongest soldier, and he has to live the rest of his life knowing he literally cannot save everybody he cares about. And he has to live on and survive and make sure all of his comrades and the people that he cared about never died in vain. He has to keep their memory living on. He has to keep their memory with him as he lives on. So yeah, in this video I'm going to talk about Levi Ackerman and explain why I think he's literally one of the most tragic characters in fiction. And yeah, enough yapping, let's just get into it. Now, I can't lie, before I actually do the proper explaining, I do want to say a lot of people like to talk about how Levi never really had a good happy ending, and I kind of do agree when people say that, because when you do think about it, at the end, physically, he is literally a broken man. He's pretty much a retired war veteran. He was once humanity's strongest soldier, but is now bound to a wheelchair, helping out the survivors from the rumbling. Now, me personally, to me, that is kind of a good ending for Levi. Reason being, he doesn't have to fight anymore. People forget that his whole journey has literally been fighting. From his childhood in the underground, to joining the scouts, to then stopping Titans, to then stopping Eren, who he once cared deeply about, who he once thought was the savior for humanity. But yeah, to me pretty much the ending can be considered bittersweet, as he literally survived a devastating amount of wars and literally achieved his lifelong dream of seeing a world without Titans. His mission was technically accomplished by that point, and now he doesn't have to fight anymore and he can live happily with Anya Capone, and I think it was Gabby and Falco that he was just chilling with. So yeah, it might not be the happiest of endings, but it is definitely an ending that he is kind of satisfied with. But yeah, back to the main topic of why I think Levi is the most tragic, broken characters I've seen. Like, the stuff that has happened to Levi, I am surprised that he actually hasn't broken down and just became a villain or threw away his whole morals. Like, I'm actually so surprised he's kept that underneath his calm, calculating demeanor. It's actually so crazy and kind of relatable, because a lot of people do like to hide their own pain, hide their own demons by keeping it to themselves and holding it in. But yeah, let's just start off with Levi in his childhood. First off, I can't lie, Levi has had one of the craziest upbringings I've seen. His mum, who was literally working in a brothel, literally died, and Levi, who was about probably 8 or 9 years old, was left alone and had to sit there in the same brothel room as her as she was lying there dead. We don't even know how many days Levi was with that corpse right there, but looking at how starved and malnourished he looks, it is guaranteed it was definitely for a little while. Then Kenny, who he didn't know was actually related to him at the time, he probably thought that it was some random stranger or potentially his actual father, but Kenny actually took him in because Levi's mum was actually his sister. But Kenny's upbringing, he wasn't the best of fathers, but he did train Levi how to survive and live in the underground, and the underground is pretty much the slums, the ghetto in paradise. It is literally a small city, literally underground of the surface. Genuinely, it's crazy. Since living with Kenny, he actually lived a life of crime, and as he was beating up a bunch of thugs, Kenny actually just walked away, and from the looks of it, Levi actually looked quite sad and disappointed. Now, one of his only closest people literally walked away with no explanation. Now, since Levi was on his own, time went by, and Levi is still in the life of crime. Now he's accompanied with 2 other friends, Farlan and Isabel, who, since they were all in poverty and were trying to make their way out, trying to make a living in the underground, and found some ODM gear, they of course used that to get by, make some more money, and then, as we all know in the OVA, eventually they got mixed up with the Scouts and Irvin Smith, who Irvin Smith then recruited the 3 of them. But in a tragic event, Levi's closest friends, Farlan and Isabel, literally died on their first mission of being Scouts. Crazy. Now, Levi then rose to the top, of course being humanity's strongest soldier, being the most powerful scout member. He then led his own team called the Levi Squad. He was literally wiped out by Annie, the female Titan, whom he never got to avenge. Towards the end, it is actually crazy that everyone just forgot that Annie literally wiped out a lot of Levi's closest buddies, and a lot of their closest companions. Genuinely, I don't know how they quickly forgave Annie, but it is what it is, I guess. But not only that, Levi then had another team which was pretty much killed by Kenny. Kenny Ackerman returned, and the first thing he does is try to kill Levi. But I'll be honest, I don't think he was really trying to kill Levi. He knows Levi can handle it because he did train Levi in the end. But Kenny did wipe out a lot of his teammates. And not so long after that, Kenny actually was dying. And of course, he confirmed to Levi that he was actually related to Levi. He was actually the uncle of Levi the whole time. And right then and there, that's pretty much when Levi actually confirmed his surname was actually Ackerman. From a long time, he did not know what his surname was and how significant his family really was back in the day. And not so long after that, Irvin and most of the new recruits and scouts had literally been wiped out by the Beast Titan, who he literally had to tell Irvin, you guys have to sacrifice yourself. You guys have to make the sacrifice play just so I have a chance at beating the Beast Titan, which all of them did agree, but it did cost the lives of Irvin Smith, who Irvin was literally his mentor, one of the most significant figures in his life, who literally pretty much turned his whole life around, and he had to send him to his death for the sake of humanity. Absolutely crazy. Not so long after that, he literally had a chance to revive Irvin, but instead of reviving Irvin, he decided to revive Armin, as we all know, because he just thought that Irvin literally has been fighting his whole life for his dream, and if he revives him now, he will literally cause Irvin even more suffering, even more pain, just to get further to his dream. So he decided it's time for Irvin to rest, and what better place for a soldier of his status to die at than reclaiming the lost city of Walmaria. So yeah, and it does not even end there. Eren Yeager, who he was pretty much a mentor to, he pretty much cared for Eren deeply, but he was then betrayed by Eren's new ideals of literally trying to wipe out half of humanity. And in that whole arc, Zeke literally turned his new team. It's actually so sad that every time Levi has a team, they just get absolutely wiped out. Zeke literally turned his new team into a bunch of titans who he literally had to kill. Again, it's actually so sad, and the fact that he literally told Zeke, this is not the first time I've had to kill people I care about. That literally shows you the tragic past he literally had that we don't even see, but we know that he's actually been through a lot. But not only that, Levi actually made a big mistake after defeating Zeke, or the Beast Titan. He implanted the Thunder Spirit in him, and without realizing how crazy Zeke actually is, Zeke blew himself up, which actually took out Levi, but Levi did actually manage to survive thanks to Hanji, who Hanji was literally one of his closest friends. Her and Irvin, those two are the ones that literally took him into the scouts and was literally like his new buddies, which Isabel and Farlan were to him. But then Hanji decides to sacrifice herself to buy them more time to escape the rumbling. And yeah, I just know Levi was fed up of watching his own comrades, his own people die, and he has to carry on, and he is the one to survive. Genuinely, what must be going through his head is crazy. But yeah, the amount of suffering I just mentioned, and this is only on screen. Imagine his actual childhood, which we barely got to see, and other events that had happened when he was joining the scouts. Yeah, can't lie, Levi has been through it. And by the end of everything, he's literally lost an eye, a leg, some fingers. He's pretty much a broken man. But by the end, his whole mission of saving humanity and getting rid of the Titans, which it was his and Irvin's big goal, he finally accomplished. But yeah, at what cost? For him being an Ackerman and him being one of the strongest people on Earth, he is the one that has to survive and keep their memories going. So yeah, like we see at the end, he managed to see all of his fallen comrades watching over him, and he now knows that all of their deaths were not in vain. It wasn't for nothing. They finally accomplished their goals. So yeah, genuinely it is so sad. But yeah, can't lie, let me know your thoughts down below on what you think of Levi Ackerman, and if there is another character that you think is just as tragic or even worse, let me know in the comments below. And yeah.